Hey everybody, Craig from Mutant Audio here, bringing you another tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to talk about something called parallel compression, sometimes also called the New York compression technique or the New York compression trick. And what this technique does is I use it mostly on drum tracks, and it's going to really give you a nice fat sound to whatever you're applying it to. So I've gone ahead and here I've set up a drum track. And right now you're just hearing the dry track. What I've done in this technique, what you're doing in parallel compression, is you're essentially applying the compression to a copy of the audio. You're not applying it directly to the audio itself, but you're routing the original signal to your output, and then you're also either routing that signal to a send or a group bus on your mixer, or if your particular audio application doesn't support busing or sends, you can bounce a copy of your track to a WAV file and import a second copy of it and apply it to that second copy. And so what I've done here is I've routed my kick, snare, and hats to this drum group track here, so that the kick, snare, and hats are going to the output, and that's what you were hearing before, and then also the drum group is going to the output, so the combination of them are going together. So again, here's the dry signal. And what we're doing with parallel compression is we're taking a compressed version of the track and we're tucking it underneath the dry signal. And the idea behind this effect is that you want the attack, the snap of your drum track to come through from the original, and you want sort of the decaying sound, the release, to come through from the compressed signal. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and set up a compressor ahead of time here. And when you're using this technique, you're going to use a fairly high ratio on your compressor, and you're going to really hit that drum track hard, so you're going to be putting a lot of gain into the track. So I've set this up with a 20:1 ratio and 20 dB of gain. So it's really acting more as a limiter than a compressor here. We're more using the compressor as effect than to control dynamics. I've set an appropriate threshold for my track, and because we want to chop off the attack and really chop those peaks in this technique, and we want more of the compressed sound to be on the decay and the sustain, I've set a fairly fast attack and a semi-slow release. When you use this technique, you're going to want to play around with this release value to be appropriate to the material you're applying it to. A faster drum track, you're going to want to use a faster release. The idea being that you want the compressor to release slowly, but you want it to still release before the next drum hit. So I've kind of set this up ahead of time to work appropriately for this track. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the volume down on this and bring this track in so you can kind of hear it as I bring it up. So we're just hearing the original signal now, and I'm going to start raising the volume of the compressed track to tuck it underneath. Kind of hear now as I bring that in that the compressed sound is kind of bringing more of a decay, bringing more of those drum sounds into a K. It's kind of drawing that sound out a bit. So now another thing that you can do when you're using this technique, and this is of course to taste, and it's going to apply differently depending on the material you're using and you're applying this technique to, is I've added a little bit of EQ here. And what I've done is I've given about 6 dB of boost in the 8 kilohertz region using just a high shelf filter here. And you can also sometimes use a bit of, you can drop off a bit of the low end too, and you get a little bit different sound. In this case, I wanted it to have a nice round sound to the compressed sound. So now I've gone ahead and set up I've exported these to the original signal and the compressed signal so that we can kind of A/B them and hear how the original signal sounds without the compressed and how the compressed signal sounds without the original. So I'm going to go ahead and play now just the original signal. And then bring in the compressed signal. Now I'm going to bring out the original signal and just play the compressed. Now you're going to notice when I bring in the original signal that it's going to have just a little bit more snap on the beginning of the drum hits. So that's basically it. That's parallel compression. It's a great technique to use to really fatten up your drum sounds, give them more power, more energy, and you can apply it to other things besides drums as well. It's really something to kind of play around with. You get a lot of mileage out of this technique. It's been used by lots of famous engineers, originated in the New York area, and it's become widespread. A lot of usage throughout the audio engineering field. Hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Hope you learned something. If you have, tell your friends. Thanks for visiting us at mutantaudio.net, and come see us again at www.mutantaudio.net.